Welcome to 20 Books Vegas. As with all things, we got to do the safety brief first. If there's a fire alarm, there are no tests scheduled this week. So if we get a fire alarm, that means there's a fire. Get the hell out. And don't dawdle. Grab your stuff and go.
Was that it?
I actually prepared a brief today. 20 Books of 50K started as a premise of an adequate retirement, enough to live comfortably in a low-cost place. A rising tide lifts all boats, an attitude that we are better together. Combine these philosophies, and you get the evolution of the group that is 20 Books of 50K. Michael Anderle and I are driven to give back to the community that has been both supportive and hostile. Yes, hostile, because if it weren't for that, Michael would have never started the group. There was no need to get in arguments and fire back. We care about looking forward, through the windshield and not through the rearview mirror. There's nothing back there except the people who said it couldn't be done. Here we are today, standing in a room of giants. 1,000 fellow authors with a massive gathering of industry providers here solely for you, the indies. Nearly 200 of you are making full-time money. And there are a couple hundred who have yet to publish a book, with all manner of authors in between. And there's a single thread that ties us all together, and that's success. It's a word that we define each in our own way. Our destinations are as different as the paths we take to get there. 20 Books of 50K is a smorgasbord from which you pick and choose to build your way forward. If you're here because you want to be successful, raise your hand. Ethically and reasonably, within our own capacity to perform. You don't have to like all the things you need to do as an indie, but you have to do them. They can be insurmountable obstacles if you don't know what to do. It's yet another reason why we're here, to fill in the gaps in our stepping stones up the mountain of success. It's a beautiful view during the climb. It's also great to look back every now and then, see how far you've come. See how many people are down the hill struggling to take their next step. We challenge everyone to reach a hand back and help the next author take just one more step. Michael and I never set out to change the world, but when it looked like we could, we changed our goals. With every author who does better today than yesterday, we win. We, as in all of us. You're here because you want to change for the better, improve your own life, improve the lives of your families, change the lives of those sitting around you. All it takes to change the world is to change one other person's life for the better. One today, then another one tomorrow. How does it make you feel when you've helped out? Don't give them a fish, teach them to fish. 20 Books of 50K. That's why we do what we do, but it starts with you. Embrace the attitude that helping others is a way to help yourself. Look for opportunities to learn and opportunities to share. Take care of yourself first, and then reach a hand back.
He's overly prepared today.
How far up your mountain of success will you go before that happens? Take a good look at yourself and make sure you're on solid footing. You'll find that you may have already come farther than you realize. Maybe it's time to reach back and give a hand to the next person struggling up the mountain. You'll find that you don't have to go very far before you've come a long way. And then you keep going forward, looking through the windshield. As I head up the mountain, all I see are hands reaching back to pull me forward. Just one more step. I also feel the hands of those behind me, pushing and cheering for my success. Reaching back, it's the least I can do. I take the time to congratulate Michael Anderle on a book that jumps up and stays high in the ranks, on a story well told, because everybody needs support. Just because you're in a different place on the climb doesn't mean that you don't need a few kind words. 20 Books of 50K exists because of Michael Anderle. Cabo San Lucas, where $35,000 a year is all you need to live comfortably. But when he reached that goal, he set a new goal, another new goal, and all of a sudden he's responsible for all of this. 35,000 like-minded souls earning the title of indie every single day. Every time you tap that button, publish. This job isn't easy, but it is the most rewarding I've ever had. I would much rather work for me and be awarded that I myself have earned for me and my family. That is the control you have as an indie. It can be a heavy burden at times, but it's also an awesome responsibility. We have people in here who have tried to take their own lives. I am happy that you're here with us today, that you failed in that. There are authors in here who have been homeless, others who have been incarcerated or spent long stretches in the hospital. There are those who've opened their homes to others, even if those others have 4 legs or feathers. And there are those who have never experienced any of that. Your life experiences, your research, your imagination have given you the fertile material to write compelling stories. That brings us here today, united in the singular purpose of writing and selling more books. As authors, we can always escape into the unlimited confines of our minds. Even when sales are down, there's always another story that must be written. And we need to be the ones to write it because no one knows the story like we do. You are critical to a story's success. It can't live without you. And then you put your baby up for sale. We have to do that. We don't have patrons like the Medici family, so we have to take care of it ourselves. And we do, all by ourselves because we work alone. But know that you are not alone. There are over 1,000 of us in Samstown, Las Vegas, right here, right now, working independently to climb the mountain of success, a mountain that is infinite in size with room for all. And we can climb it together. No one has to be left behind. No one who's willing to work hard at the right things. Presenters, panelists, and your fellow authors are hoping to fill gaps in knowledge so you can pick and choose what is best for you and your journey. That's the power of being an indie. We take responsibility. We have the freedom to decide what we want to do. And we get the rewards for our efforts. Besides writing a great story, that means learning a little marketing, writing some ads, bidding on keywords, paying your taxes, and all those cool adult things. No one is going to carry you in this business. But look at how many people are sharing, offering a hand to help you help yourself. You wouldn't be listening if you weren't willing to learn. This is a huge step in the journey to a higher level of professionalism. And this is your profession. Your investment to come here, your investment in time if you're watching from home, show your commitment to take this seriously. Don't half-ass what could be the best career of your life. You wouldn't be writing if you didn't love it. Now's the time to make those words work for you. I believe that nothing worth having is easily gotten. Your first book probably won't be your magnum opus, except that it takes practice and a continuous improvement mentality to get better. My personal goal is a single book that sells 100,000 copies. I have a ways to go because I don't think I've written that book yet. I make a little across a lot of books with the newest releases, earning good money right away, and then adding later to the revenue streams. I call it the blue-collar approach to white-collar money. There would be no glitter on that gold if we didn't help other people. Philanthropy is a part of our souls, and judging by the people who are here today, we are not alone. Feel the hope. It's not sink or swim. Be energized by the positivity. Stand tall and be proud to be a member of this tribe. Peers, not prey. Compatriots, not competitors. A rising tide lift by 1,000 voices, celebrating success and riding the tide higher and higher, together. Werewolves in love, spaceship ass, horse-drawn carriages, fecking clowns, a murder unsolved, talking cats, an endless parade of adventures. Stories in real life, fiction and nonfiction. More than a job, it's a calling, a love for the written word. Your stories could provide an escape from the real world, or open the universe for a future engineer, or help a reader learn something new. So much opportunity, and all you have to do is put those words into the hands of the right readers. what the books look like, to how they read, to finding buyers who will love your work. That's what 20Books Vegas hopes to accomplish. And we want you to take advantage of the opportunities. There is no place like this, no other group like 20 Books to 50K. This conference, almost done. This conference is a place to feel safe and focus on your way ahead. We've worked hard to keep 20 Books drama-free, so much so that we're where drama comes to die.
A horrible death, and quick.
Flaming death. It has zero business value, so don't waste your time. Invest your time in the endeavors that will deliver for your business. We believe that the 20 Books conferences are as inclusive as humanly possible. I care that you are trying to write better words with each new sentence, sell one more book today than you did yesterday, manage your author business just a little bit better year over year. Write the best book you can as quickly as you're capable of. That is your commitment to the opportunity that is self-publishing. That is your commitment to yourself. A rising tide lifts all boats. My name is Craig Martelle, and this is 20 Books Vegas.
Craig tells me, I've got a little bitty thing, it's going to take 5 minutes. And so I'm looking at this number down here going, I'm going to have to speak really, really fast. So hopefully everything is going on. We should soon see what's on my screen up here. Is this true? Yes? There we go. All right. My name, if you didn't know, is Michael Anderle. You will find me saying that in the elevators, no problem whatsoever, because I'll say, hi, I'm Mike. Usually the response is, we know that. But that is what it is. So let me go through the basics. This is what I hear a lot of times. You will probably recognize this. What is the 20 Books to 50K story? How did it go? I'm going to go really quick. In between books 2 and 3, books 1 and 2, I've been making around $7.50 on average a day by the books. In Cabo San Lucas, if we moved the money we had in Texas in that home and we moved it to Cabo, we could live on $1,000 a month. In Texas, with a paid-off home, I would have been paying $1,000 a month in taxes. Didn't really like that concept. So that's the 20 books. I calculated it out. If I could make 20 books at $7.50 a day, I could make $50,000 a year. I could retire my wife, who I didn't ask if she wanted to be retired. Kind of an oversight on my part. But that is where the 20 Books to 50K comes from. Next, the next question is always, what does LMBPN stand for? And it is actually London, I see here Las Vegas. Actually, no, this is what I wanted to say real quick. Las Vegas, London, Australia, Bali, Edinburgh. We have been to all of these places around the world giving out to fellow authors. We're really proud to have done it. But in 2020, we will only be here again next year. We needed a break. So please come back. What do the initials LMBPN mean? The short answer is London, Milan, Barcelona, Paris, New York. It was something I put together for my wife because she's into fashion. We reused those things and realized that only one of the cities needed to change from Madrid to Milan in order Milan to Madrid in order to be able to say it's top publishing companies in the world. And then, therefore, we use and change the cities as we need to. Let's get right into the business. I got up here on stage last year and said, we're looking to do 400 titles in this year. The answer is we will be short that 400 goal. We've learned a lot. Strategically, we have 400 books on the docket. We could not get 400 books out. We acquired approximately 100 books in the summer and quickly realized, because it's Mike effing Bray who got me to get part of this. And for those who've seen the Craig and Mike show, I talked about the gentleman with the black cowboy hat. He's right over there. Please harass the crap out of him this week, and it would please me to no end. So do that for me. I'll do this and keep doing this for you. So on the 400 books, we did not or will not have ended up publishing. We will finish with the year somewhere around 340. Some of those titles will have been what I'm calling reverse omnibus, where I actually put in, thank you, where I put 3 books into one, release the one, and later next year I'm going to break them back into 3. That's the reverse you'll know of the box set. If you want to know more, I've got to, pretty much ask Mike questions tomorrow night, 10 a.m. in the Cinemark Theater with popcorn and Did I say AM? Yes. Oh, crap. So sorry. It is at night. Won't you be surprised? Won't they be surprised? So one of the things that going to 400 Books forced our company to do is look into new technologies. And I'm going to show and display some of those here with you. But part of it is also marketing. When to use algorithms, when to use people. On the marketing and the algorithms themselves, we have a small team that handles the marketing across something like 50-plus series. However, we're using Prestizon as the ability to go back and make sure that we drip feed all of the series. So that's been our goal for the last 6 months, is figuring out how do we do the marketing for everything in the company without it becoming too much of a burden overall. So if you'd like to check out Prestizon, please do. David Beers is somewhere between here and Cannery Row. You might talk to him. He's got a beard. You can't miss him. Editing and quality control. We are having to move forward in the editing part. Our editing team did over 2 million words of editing in August. It just about freaking killed them. And so we've been looking at, in Frankfurt, we found some AI-driven editing potential. It was all shown for nonfiction. But in short, what it will do is you take your book, you put it into the algorithm, and you give it the edited version that you approved, and you put it into the algorithm, and it learns how to edit to you or us or somebody else. So that's what we're looking into. We don't really think it's there yet. So we talked about the Ask Me Anythings, and I have it at 10 p.m. right here. So one of the things that I'd like to talk about is a little bit of the fun stuff. And the fun stuff to me is how are we taking technology and using it in a slightly different way. For instance, marketing, video, what it's going to do. Anybody around here play video games? Yeah? Any of you play with the Unreal Engine? Any of you thought to take the Unreal Engine, build an advertising city? It's kind of like the Guns N' Roses, sort of. But I'd like to give you a little preview of some stuff that we're doing here at LMBPN on the side of that game engine. And you will notice inside there will be, I sure hope it comes back up, otherwise we're just not really going to show very well. Nope, I hear noise. Have some of our books along the side. You'll see our branding on there. The hologram was one of our 3D characters that was on one of our book covers. But in all of this, we're building this 3D city so that we can show something really cool with advertising. So that's just a piece of the Unreal Engine marketing that we're doing here at LMBPN. Thank you. So let's talk a little bit more about our publishing status of Opus X. We talked about this last year. Opus X is going wide, and this is the new, and I'll talk a little bit about it a little bit later about the hybrid stuff, but this is our effort to understand how to take somebody who's at the pinnacle of his personal success and ego gratification and make him a nobody again. Therefore, we chose me to do this. We'll figure out what's going on with that one. The first book was released November 2nd, November 1st, technically. But this particular piece, because I'm getting off of it, was for Kristine Gambit. Since we did this 4 years ago, we've done over 1.2 billion pages in KENP. Kind of a nice number. We have now over 600 titles. We have over 200 audiobook titles that we ourselves have done. We've done 100 additional titles with Dreamscape, with Tantor, with Podium. And Dreamscape has, they're here. If you get a chance, meet them. Well, actually, all of them are here. Over 60% monthly income right now is KU pages read. My calculations the last time I did this, we're still between 0.5% and 1% of all. There we go. I don't know what the, hello. Of all KENP and Amazon. So why would we go wide? What's the point of doing that? We needed growth into new areas. You can saturate the KU market. You can also produce books, produce series that don't hit in KU. So we need to scale. We're becoming a hybrid publisher. And I don't mean hybrid from the traditional versus indie or bookstores and digital. I actually mean wide versus exclusive. So there's going to be new strategies, new tactics. And these things we can talk about. We have a white paper we'll speak to in a minute. But we also are going to be able to talk about this again. And What happens if some of your products don't take in KU? Now, I understand there's a philosophical difference in this, in it being you feel like you can sleep easier at night. I recognize there are multiple ways. That wasn't the reason we chose to do it, but there are viable other reasons in order to be wide. So I talked about it. We'll test me because my ego can take it apparently. And we produced a white paper with the partners of where we're at right now with the first book just released. And part of that white paper is explaining why did we do this, what is it about that we wanted to accomplish, and some of the methodologies that we've done. We also talk about this series being one story, 12 books, 18 months. We are on every 6 weeks, we are releasing a book. These books are 120,000 words apiece. The editing alone drives me freaking nuts. But we are pushing that because in my mind, in my understanding, I can't go wide with one book, with two, I can technically. But in order to go, for example, on Apple, you really need to kind of have that first 99 cent, that first free, in order to get people moving along. And so, well, we need 3 books, so we're moving it. So we're in this test for at least 18 to 21 months, which means in next year and the following year, we'll be back telling you more of what's going on, what did we learn. And so I'd like to give you just a little bit here. So that example was 2, but we're gonna have just a little bit here. Of what was produced to push this marketing. You saw what we're doing in the game engine. Now I'd like to show you what we're doing with Gene Malika Studios out of New York. Let's see what happens this time. We're not done yet. So, hold on. No, we're not done, Mother.
Well, cut in.
So we're here to tell everybody who thinks they understand how to do book marketing, we know how to do book marketing. So the next thing I want to go into real quick is, these are some of the marketing aspects of the white paper. We will have this white paper at opusxseries.com/whitepaper. Steve, sorry, I forgot to tell you about that. So if we could put that up there, that would be fantastic. Okay, I know you, 1 minute, no, you took 10 minutes, you told me 5. Relationships. Please, here are the most important parts of what you're going to get out of here because almost all of these sessions are going to be recorded. So grab relationships. If you want printing help, you want things in bookstores, Ingram Spark is here. Do you want to get into libraries? It's a really good, solid market. It's also good for your marketing. Well, or bookstores. Publishers Weekly is here. They're over here. I don't know where Robin is. She's there somewhere. You got to nail down that email marketing. BookBub, BookFunnel, who has it? Written Word Media, they're here. You don't have to go and chase them down at Book Expo America. Almost a total waste of time. Amazon Advertising is here. Audio partners for distribution, Findaway and ACX are here. Audio partners to license your IP to, Dreamscape, Podium, Tantor, and Audible are here. Exclusive with Amazon questions. Well, guess what? Amazon KDP, in fact, Amazon Audio, ACX, 14 Amazon reps are here. Bug the crap out of them. Going wide. Google Play is here. Publish Drive is here. Draft to Digital is here. Get a hold of these people. Craig is going to have, they're going to be bringing them back up on stage. Do you need help with editing, design, publicity, and more? Reedsy is here. You got ARCs, you got group promo, collect reader emails. Book Funnel is here. You need graphics for your sales ads and social media. BookBrush is here. Let's talk about relationships part 2 because he's telling me, whoa. Collaboration partner, Universe, Printing Buddy. That's what we've always been able to do, but they're here. Find somebody. They're right there. They're right in your other room over there, too. Speakers, do not leave after the presentation. If you have questions about one of the speaker presentations, go up there and talk to them. That's why they're here. They don't get money for this. They're doing it because they care to give back. Research geeks, and you know who you are, your people are here as well. Thank you. Thank you for Las Vegas. 20 Books to 50K 2019. Let's do something awesome.
Thank you, thank you. And actually, we don't have a break because our intro is only going to be like 10 minutes total. So now that we've spent our 10 minutes, if I can get the high-powered authors on the stage, please, for the high-powered author panel. First panel of the conference, high-powered authors. It went over so well last year, we wanted to do it again. And so we have, we'll ask our panelists to introduce themselves. If you would go first, Rebecca. Oh, geez, sorry, I caught you.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Moesta. I've been an author since, I don't know. I thought I was going to be an author when I was a teenager, and I didn't get around to it till much later, so I didn't actually start getting published till the 1990s, early 90s. I've written in a lot of different universes, Star Trek, Star Wars, StarCraft, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and also written books with my husband, Kevin J. Anderson, and mostly traditionally published.
I'm Kathryn Rusch. Some of you know me from my blog, which is at chriswrites.com. I blog on the publishing industry a lot because I have been in the publishing industry forever. I did start as a teenager. So when I tell you I have 40 years of experience, I'm not as old as I sound. I'm almost as old as I sound. I was in traditional publishing for a long time in almost every job except agent. I've owned publishing companies. I still own publishing companies. I also have other companies as well, and I have been a writer since I was a published writer since I was 16 years old. I am also hybrid in the traditional sense, and the Michael's sense that he mentioned this morning. I am wide and exclusive. I am also traditionally published and indie, mostly indie with my books for legal and contract reasons, which we may get into at some point later in the conference. But so, you know, if you have a question about the history of publishing, I know it. If you have a question about current publishing, I probably know what I think about that because it's changing all the time. So welcome to this. It's good to see so many faces.
Hi, my name is Alex Lidell. I started out with Penguin in traditional publishing. Then I switched to indie publishing with the reverse harem genre specifically is what I'm writing the most. And so come if you want to talk to me about the difference between indie and traditional. I'm your person. If you like to talk business, a Power 5 books launched in the top 25 on Amazon, so you can guess whether I'm staying with indie or going back to traditional. I'll leave that guess to you. But I think both avenues are amazing, and I'm happy to talk about any and all.
I'm Malorie Cooper. I used to be Michael Cooper, so if you read my book, Help My Facebook Ads Suck, you might not recognize me. I look a little bit different now. I write science fiction. I've created a universe called Aeon 14, and my goal for that is actually to make it ultimately be the largest internally consistent science fiction universe ever made. My goal is to have 500 to 600 books in that universe, and that's sort of what I'm marching toward. So me and my co-authors, we've been at this for 2 years now, 2.5, I guess, and this year we'll reach 100 books in the universe, so we're chugging along. So the question, if you want to talk about that, about how to build a big universe, how to manage being insane most of the time, or how to do Facebook marketing and a bunch of other fun marketing stuff. I'm always around.
Hello, I'm Lindsay Buroker. I've been an indie author from the beginning, almost since the beginning of the Kindle revolution. End of 2010, I published my first novel. I think I'm around 70 or 80 right now between my name and my pen name. And gosh, I don't even know what else to talk about up here. I did the science fiction and fantasy marketing podcast for 4 years. We're now, you were on my show. We're now doing the Six-Figure Author podcast, so anybody who's not sci-fi fantasy can come on, and it's really been great interviewing people and seeing so many different roads to success. So, I'm kind of the solo author. I don't want to publish anybody else. I've never wanted to be published by anybody else, and I'm a bit of a genre hopper, so you can do it that way. You can do it the right-to-market way. There's a ton of paths to success.
It sounds like you all still have your foot on the gas. So what is your current target or goal of success? Lindsay? While you're hot.
At this point, I'm just trying to keep everything going. I'm buying real estate on the side so that if everything crashes tomorrow, I'll be okay. But I'm trying to learn just like you guys are. Everything changes so quickly, especially in the indie sphere here, that it's really great to hear from everybody, all the different methods out there that are working right now and what's going to be working next year. So just trying to keep things going and keep writing new books that my fans enjoy.
I guess it's kind of what I mentioned already. I have this sort of one goal where I want to create this massive universe, and I want to do it in a way where I'm effectively going to tell one story across all of these books. So I'm trying to do something that I don't think has ever been done before, telling just like a single story across hundreds and hundreds of books that you can come into from multiple points. And basically, I want people to experience what we're writing just like you'd experience history. You can come into it from any point. You can start reading about the Babylonians, the Romans. You could read about the Incans. You could start with the American Civil War. You could start with anywhere and sort of experience this massive history. So I'm trying to do that with a giant science fiction universe. And it'll probably kill me, but it's going to be like the best thing ever. So.
Well, I have the last book in my flagship series coming out in January, and after that it's a new year, so I'm going to be revamping up with a new series, which is scary after being with these characters for so long. So that's one of my goals for the next few days, is I'm planning out exactly the direction I want to go for 2020 with a new series, with the flagship series coming to a close.
Cool. I'm a Gemini, so I have two parts to my brain. And one part of my brain is very business-oriented. That's why I write the business column, and I explore what's going on and try to find out the new stuff and always look at what's current and see what's going to help my businesses and my writing. And then I have the other side of my brain, which is the writing side of my brain, which does not let any of that business stuff in ever, and doesn't allow to talk about that or anything else. And so, that one I kind of call it either the oh shiny or the hummingbird brain, because it's going, oh cool, oh cool, oh cool, I want to do that. And so I don't tell you what I'm working on because it may change from hour to hour. But what I just published is the latest book in my diving series, which is actually a brick because we've got the paper books now, and it's 800 pages. And it was just ridiculous. We did a Kickstarter on it, and that was really successful and everything else. And so I don't know what's going to be published in 2020 because I never, ever set up my publication schedule because of that hummingbird brain side of things until the book is done. So the only thing I know for sure right now is that I will have a nonfiction book out about licensing for authors, which is called Rethinking the Writing Business. So that's the only thing I know that's coming out in 2020 at the moment. I've got a lot of plans. We'll see if it happens.
I wish that writing was the only thing you had to do to keep your foot on the pedal and go full speed ahead, but that's not the way it works anymore. That was the olden days, and we're not in the olden days. And like Chris, Kevin and I are publishers. We've got about 100 authors now. And so one of the ways we keep our foot on the pedal is to keep diversifying income streams and to try to stay on top of what's going on in the business, just like Craig and Michael have to, and everybody here at 20Books, so that we can stay on top of it for ourselves and for our authors and pass it along to authors as we do.
When you started your journey, what was the one thing that clicked that helped you take off as an author?
Well, as I said, I thought I was going to be an author since I was a teenager, and I was what I actually refer to as a dinker. I started books, and then I got distracted by the hummingbird brain, as Chris says, and I would get a brilliant idea for a story, and I'd flit off to something else. So I had a hard drive littered with pieces of books and stories, and finally I started meeting professional authors, and there was this snot-nosed kid about 5 years younger than me who was actually published that I met named Kevin J. Anderson, who started introducing me to actual published authors, and one of them said, you're writing, but you don't have anything done? That's just chicken shit. Go home, pick a story, and finish it. And that was kind of what kicked me off, was I started finishing things.
What kicked me off? I came from a family of readers, and I'm 20 years younger than my siblings, so my earliest memories are of me begging people to pay attention to me while they were reading. Didn't work. So I think I became a writer to attract attention. But aside from that, what kicked me off, it's a hard question to answer after 40 years in the career, because what happens is, unfortunately, it doesn't matter if you're traditional or indie, because it's happening in indie now too. Careers don't go like this, they go like this. And so you kick off, and then you go really well for a while, and you hit whatever the current thing is, and you go really well, and then you crash. And then after you've crashed, you have to pick yourself up again and keep going. And that was, I think, the thing that we were, when I met Kevin when he was even a snottier-nosed kid, because we were in college together. And, he was 19. He's younger than me, too. And, he was the guy who kind of inspired me to get other stuff done, because he told me what genre I was writing in. I had no clue. At dinner last night, Kev said, the thing is, we're one of the few survivors. We're the very few people we know that were there when we started are still here. And I can say that about the indie movement, too. Very few people who were there in 2009. Lindsay's one of the success stories. They're not here anymore. They came and they crashed, and they didn't pick themselves up. And that's the real key to survival in this industry. It doesn't matter how long you're laying on the floor. Figure out what you did. Figure out what happened. Sometimes it's the world. Pick yourself up and then move it forward again. That's why having conferences like this is so great, because you learn what the new stuff is, and you go, ooh, shiny, that, and go that way.
I'm going to focus on the step between that really changed my business of writing, and that was hands down market research. I went into the romance, reverse harem romance, the romance subgenre, and learning to respect my readers' likes, respect the tropes, and figuring out what they are, and then writing with very respectfully to those preferences. And that made a huge difference.
So for me, it was two things. I filled a niche, I think, that hadn't been filled before. I love like rollicking space adventure, but I also love the science to be correct. And most rollicking space adventure, like Star Wars and whatnot, has like zero science. So I started writing hard science fiction space opera, which has like all this fun and adventure and crazy stuff going on, but the science behind it is all really accurate, and it feeds a lot into the story. And nobody read that. Because I didn't know how to put it in front of the people that were going to read it. And so I published my first book in 2012, and I sold maybe 300 copies until 2016. And I discovered this thing called advertising. And I was able to find the people that wanted to read my books. And I took a book that had languished for 4 years and kept it in about the top 7,000 on Amazon for 6 months through advertising. And that is actually, that one event was what built my career. So that was sort of my flashpoint. And that's sort of why a lot of times I talk about advertising and whatnot, because I'm here today because I understood how to do that and understood how to get my strange niche series of books in front of the right people.
All right, 2 points for me early on. The first one was just seeing other people succeeding and having a lot of success. So I appreciate everybody in the beginning that blogged about, like, here's my numbers on Amazon, here's what I'm making. And I thought, if they can do it, I can do it too. But I was never really super confident. I made a lot of mistakes early on. We didn't have cover designers and the whole industry that's kind of been built up, so you had to go out and really dig around on DeviantArt or whatever to try to find somebody to do your covers. So I feel like I didn't hit the floor running. I really made a lot of mistakes in the beginning. And what really made me believe I could do this as a career and for a living was when I got to the point where I put up my Facebook author page. I think I had like 3 books out. And people found me right away. They're there, we were waiting for your Facebook author page. We wanted to contact you. And this was only when I had, maybe a few hundred sales of each of the first books in my series. And, just the fan response and, realizing that if I had, the kind of the 1,000 true fans paradigm, if you've got this many people that really love the books you're putting out and the way you tell the story, you can have a career. No matter what the market's doing, you're always going to have X number of people that go out and buy your book. And it's super powerful. And that's what led me to realize, okay, I think I can make this work.
A hypothetical. An author has 10 books out, 10 books, and they're not making any money. How would you advise them to look at their business?
Hold on, they have 10 books out. Now tell me, how did you, let's take a look at your covers in your 10 books and the top covers of the same similar books that are best-selling. Are your covers like the best-selling books in those genres or not?
They are in all 10 of them.
All right. And tell me about how what did you do for the launch of your last book?
I wrote it.
That's a great start. And you ask it.
Are these books all in a series, or are they all in different genres?
No, there are 10 different genres.
Okay, there's your problem. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I would consider and I'll pass it off to our advertising guru, but one thing I would consider is if you are doing true market research, it's hard to do it for 10 genres at the same time and stay on top of current trends. 2 is in terms of advertising, if your books have read-through from one to another, you can afford to spend more money advertising book 1, and that will extend to the rest of your books, where since you have the books in 10 different genres, it is more difficult to move the reader from one book to another. So I would encourage you to work on more books in a series for sell-through, focus market research on...
How do I know if my books are any good?
Who does the good books?
Okay, I'm an editor, and I do want to know whether or not these books have been edited by a professional or not, or if you just threw them up onto the wall and sent them out into the world.
I paid $1,000 each to get each one edited.
Okay, here's what I would tell you. 10 books and 10 genres. If you'll notice on my badge, it says what genre? It says all, because I'm that person, okay? And the thing is that when you write in more than one genre, you want people to follow your voice, which is a hard, hard path to follow. I mean, you have Douglas Adams, you have people like that who are voice writers, and people will buy anything that they have written because they like their voice. But otherwise, you can't expect reader to go from book to book to book to book. So you find which one of your 10 genres speaks to you the most, write a few more books in that genre, and then move. You don't just do it, 10 random. You do 5 here, 5 there, 5 here, 5 there. And you can be in the multiple genres, but realize it's going to be a lot tougher for you than it is for all the, anybody who's going to be doing 10 books in the same series.
I have a fully unscientific, but it seems to work model that might work for you. So here's my theory. It's 30, 30, 30, 10 as to the parts that are going to determine your book's success. But like a college test, you can get up to 30 points in each category. You can't get any more. All right? So you get up to 30 points for the quality of your books, how good they are, how well they're edited. You get up to 30 points how well you're doing marketing on your books. How good you're using all the ads with your expert over here. You can get up to 30 points for how to market your books are to begin with, which is your initial research. And then 10 points is pixie dust. So, yeah, exactly. Like I said, highly scientific theory. So I would look at each of those categories and realize you can't get more than 30 points. So changing that, making sure that typo on page 472 is not the reason for your change in your career.
I would say the other thing too is to read the reviews. I mean, it's hard to say in a scenario like that, an author might not have a lot of reviews, but the reviews are going to tell you why people don't like the books if they don't like them, and it can hurt. And then you have to go and cry for a little while in a fetal position in the bathtub, you know, like doing the Ace Ventura thing, you know, where he's washing himself and crying. But you get over that, and then you go read it again, and you actually objectively look at what you might have done wrong. And that's a good place to go. It's the worst place to go, but it's the place you have to go.
Everybody made good points. I would say, too, that if you get asked, like, how do I know if they're any good? Even though I'm diehard self-publisher, indie author, before I got into this, I submitted short stories to magazines because that was the way you had to do it. And I don't think that's a bad idea, even if you're planning to have an indie career, because if you can start selling some of your work to jaded editors out there, which we might have some editors around here, you know, it's kind of a litmus test. You at least know the writing itself is not the problem if you're struggling to find an audience.
That's it. Thank you very much for that. We have a microphone up here. If you'd like to ask questions, you have to get in line, and then we'll pick you and ask. In the interim,
While we're waiting for people to come up, I want to add one thing. The real key to getting fans, to getting people to love your work, is storytelling. Your storytelling has to be really good. And you can actually figure that out by finding 5 readers who are not writers and having them read the book. And make sure that they, you know, and don't ask them, is it good, is it bad, do you like this scene on page 34? Just have them tell you their reaction. Where would they find it if they went to a bookstore? You know, what did they like best about it? Let them talk to you, and you'll figure out. If they said it took me 6 weeks to read it, you got a storytelling problem. Okay, you want them to read it all, take one night, 2 days, whatever their time. And then you can figure out storytelling, learn more craft.
that's a great point, and that's why Mark Dawson called his company Unputdownable, because that's the key to success. Liz.
Yes. In every career, you hit plateaus. And
Closer to the mic, please.
in every career, you hit plateaus, and you hit many of them. How did you dig deep and come back to the table and figure out how to level up?
I did start the plateau. Well, you have to really want it, guys. I mean, if you are being a writer and you don't really want it, there's other things that are easier to do. There are a lot of things. And now, because the indie revolution is going so well, there are related things. You can be a cover designer. You can be an editor. You can do all this other stuff that still keeps you in this world, but it doesn't keep you writing. So the first thing is you have to really love it. And then go back to what you love about it. So if you really like telling stories with space opera sort of themes, but hard science, which sounds really good, then, you know, go back and write that. And find your enthusiasm again. That's what's going to keep you going, is your enthusiasm. But make it fun, play. If you have to protect that space, I don't read reviews because that side of my hummingbird brain will never get off the bathroom floor. So I don't read them. I don't care. I'm not writing. I'm sorry, my readers out there. I'm not writing for you. I'm writing for me. So if you don't like what's happening out there, that's okay. I do. But if I don't like it, it's going to, you know, I'm going to keep reworking it until I do. Somebody else?
I think if you get to the point where, does this one work? Where you're stuck, I mean, you know, you have to be realistic too. It's like, oh, I'm stuck at $7 million a year. Just how do I get to the next level? I don't know. But if you feel like you could be doing better and you're struggling, I think part of it is, I'm a little bit stubborn myself. I write the stories I like to write, and then I figure out how to market them instead of writing to market necessarily. But if you've been doing that and it's not working for you as well as you think it would, maybe it's time to explore, let me see what's a little more commercial that I might be able to do the next series that you still enjoy writing. But you have to decide, do you want the money or do you just want to write what makes you happy? And sometimes there is a little clash in between those two. And some people can make it work, and some people have to just decide, I'm going to go for the more commercial route because it's more successful. And I think also if you just find somebody that's sort of higher on the pole or where you want to be and stalk them, the internet makes this really easy. See what they're doing that maybe you're not doing yet and that you could implement.
How do I follow that? I mean, stalk them, right? That's what you should be doing. I actually had an issue with that this summer. I hit a wall, and part of that was due to transitioning. I had no idea how much headspace that was going to consume. The other part is that I've learned this important lesson that testosterone just makes you think you're amazing, and when you don't have testosterone, you're like, dear God, I'm terrible all the time. So it's true. It's true. Yeah, I've learned so many lessons. So yeah, I was at a point where last year I was releasing, last August I wrote 250,000 words and I spent a week in Disney. And this past August I wrote 30,000 words and I worked 16 hours a day, and that's all I managed to do. And that happens sometimes. And it's going to be, the answer is different for everybody, but you're going to have to take a step back and refocus and figure out what's important to you. And also know that it happens to everybody. Everybody hits walls. Everybody has to figure out, get past them. But it's like Kathryn said, you have to really want it. And I've got that goal I mentioned before. I want to have this massive universe with all these books and this big story. And I'm not done yet. So I'm going to keep going until I'm done.
Within publishing as a whole, what are the biggest changes y'all are anticipating for 2020, and what changes are you most excited about looking forward?
I'm going to spend more money on Amazon ads next year. I don't know about you guys, but I think, just the change that there's so much more out there. There's so much more competition. We just have to really be good, really up our game. And I'm waiting for the day when I can get an AI assistant of myself, so I don't have to hire anybody else, but I also don't have to do all the things myself. That's got to be coming.
Oh, I hope that's coming. Except I want my assistant to be a lot more organized than I am.
You might have to worry about your AI slave assistant rebelling, so I would keep that in mind. They may not want that. Yeah. I think actually still, I feel like the thing that we really all have to keep doing is keeping on writing is the big thing. The other thing you have to do is you have to figure out what cool hip technology the kids are using, because when they abandon it, all of the older readers will start using it. I'm not too sure which order it goes in, to be honest. It could be the older readers, people show up, and then the kids abandon it. But you actually should be what is Snapchat? What is TikTok? Can I actually advertise on those platforms? The answer is yes, you can actually advertise on those platforms. What is the number one place where readers are on the planet is Facebook, 3.2 billion people. What's the number two? It's Reddit, 1.2 billion humans are on Reddit all the time. Have you ever been to Reddit? Do you know how to advertise on Reddit? Just like we all learned with Facebook and became terrible addicts, you have to go and sort of experience that thing and understand how people who use it as users use it before you start advertising in it. So with all these other platforms, you can't do them all, but you might actually say I'm going to try TikTok. I want to make stupid videos. It'll be hilarious, and then get into it. And you might actually figure out there's a way to reach new people and advertise and branch out.
Okay, in the overall, I want to take this out of the publishing realm because publishing is backwards, and traditional publishing doesn't know what the heck it's doing, and so many indies base what they do on traditional. And so if you take it out and you take it wider, Rebecca mentioned something earlier that was really important. She said they look at different income streams throughout the thing, and that's what I do through my career in the business side, not the writing side. I look for different income streams, and what's got me really exciting right now is I went to the licensing expo. Those of you who live here in Las Vegas can go for free. And readers don't just come from bookstores and libraries and e-retailers and e-sites and Reddit and Facebook. They play a game, a video game, and if you have an ad for it at the end, they will come that way, or they get really enthusiastic. Let's say you license your book to a video game, and they get really enthusiastic about the game, but they've never played, or they've never read your book. At some point, they're going to want more of the game. There's not going to be enough of the game, so they're going to go get books. That's a tried and true method, but there's all these other ways that it works. I mean, Martelle comes out with books about out, they're dolls, for heaven's sakes, which means there's a market for it. So I think we, as writers and as business people, let's talk business people right now, have got a completely untapped market out there of other ways that are not libraries, bookstores, e-tailers, and that stuff to appeal to readers. And traditional publishing never touched it. Indie isn't even aware of it. And I think it's vast. And I think it's coming in the next 5 years.
Hi, for those of us who have a full-time job and a family and a life and everything else to manage, on top of trying to be a writer, what is the one most important thing you would recommend we focus on from a marketing standpoint?
I guess it's on me. It's to pick one platform, except for Twitter. Don't pick Twitter because you'll just die. Pick one platform and choose that to be sort of the place where you make a brand for yourself there. And if you're working a job and whatnot, readers actually like knowing who authors really are. Don't put your whole self out there because that can be emotionally draining. But pick one of those platforms and be real on it and be yourself and talk about your books and things you're reading and whatnot. And because that's the sort of thing I think a lot of us would do anyway. And that's a great way to sort of build up people who know you and understand you. And then as you bring books out and whatnot, they're already going to say, hey, it's that guy, and I like what he said about this thing. And that can be a great way to sort of ease into it.
And I'm going to chime in for a second, though doesn't go specifically to marketing. It does go to best uses of time, which is to analyze when and how you are most productive. So you can get more done in an hour than somebody gets done in 4 hours, or that you yourself would usually get done in 4 hours when you have looked at data points about yourself. So for example, my hour between 9 and 10 in the morning is much more valuable to me than between 6 and 7 at night. I'm going to get a lot more done. If I have 1 hour, I need that hour. I can't just switch family activities around, and go out with the kids in the morning and then I'll just write in the evening. I know the productivity isn't going to be there. Try several things and keep track of what gives you the most productivity for that time. Another example, a friend of mine turned me on to For the Words, where you battle monsters against time. Well, I discovered that if I'm sitting down with a little circle that tells me how many words I have and how much time I have left, writing 500 words is easy. When I'm sitting with just a Word document, writing 500 words takes 2 to 3 times as long. So I have made that, I have tested it. I know if I don't have access to that program for initial drafting, I know that is not going to be a good use of my time to just open a Word document. I'll get more done later when I do have access to that program. So I need to use that time for something else. I will do my marketing stuff in the evening because I know it's not my productive writing time. So using that time and figuring out data points for yourself.
I would say also, too, if you're really limited with time, to just focus on making sure that your newsletter and mailing lists are set up really well. That when people do come and find you, that you're saying, here's the books, or maybe you've got a drip campaign that, I don't actually do this myself, I should. But, that's got, the next 4 or 5 emails they're going to get, so that when you do win a fan, they're going to stick around, because word of mouth, I get tagged all the time on Facebook by people who are talking about my books in their Facebook groups. There's really nothing more powerful than that, and it doesn't take me any time. They're talking about them, but to get to that point, really nurturing your fan base. And I'm still a fan, even here in 2019, of a book one free in a series if you've got a series of 5 or more books. And that it's very easy to just take 5 minutes to it and apply for an e-reader news today, or all the different BookBub if you can get it. They're not as effective, most people find, as they were maybe 5 years ago, but it's still it's a way to spend $20, get some downloads. Maybe you get one true fan out of that, and just realize that it's being consistent over time with advertising your stuff. It's not like I got to have 40 hours a week for the next 2 months, or I'm never going to make it as an author.
So we're typically told to, look at our subgenre and look at the indies who are successful rather than looking at trad pub. And I'm finding some success with domestic thrillers, but it's sort of an emerging subgenre as far as I understand. There really aren't indies that have been there a long time. So do you have any recommendations about, you know, getting good footing in that space, given that situation? Got them stumped.
I think that you can look at trad publishing if it's a newer author. You don't want to look at someone that's like Stephen King. Whatever, he can put out a napkin and it's going to sell. You know, if there's a debut author and the blurb, you know, if it's really catching on, I would go ahead and use that as an example. I feel like we say like, well, look, George R.R. Martin blurb is not that great, and he's, you know, you got to look at somebody that's new also and having success.
Are you, by domestic thrillers, do you mean Gone Girl and that sort of thing?
Yeah, they're different. They're a little more emotional, a little more relationship, character focused than the gritty crime. There is crime, but it's treated a little bit differently.
Well, I do know we have a suspense and thriller panel coming up later, and it may be something to ask that whole panel. I'm going to be on that too. But, you know, one of the things that you can do is also look at something called, I hate this term, women's fiction, because that is domestic thriller and has been domestic thriller for a long time. But right now, you're right. In the indie space, nobody knows how to market it. And I write a lot of genres like that are, you know, you don't know how to market it. So you get to be the test case.
Okay. Great. Awesome.
I would still go find the closest comps you can find. Do tracking how the best comps that do exist. How are they, say, if they're in KU, how are they ranking? So you have a comparison point. How do you know if something launches well or it's doing well? Well, that depends for what kind of book you're writing and what category. So what is okay, what is subpar, and what is above average? You need to be able to answer those milestones with the best comps you can find so you can actually judge how successful you are. Otherwise, you might be launching successfully in comparison to comps and think you're failing, or launching what you think is great and you shouldn't be doing anymore, but when you look at comps, you're like, yeah, but I should have been doing a whole different story. So the best comps you can to establish baselines of knowing what success looks like.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, yeah, I was wondering how you developed your workflows for word production and what that is like and how that may have changed as you evolved as writers.
A couple of things that affected word flow was building up a group of people who support my writing and who can block out time for me and help me get my work done. And sometimes that involves horse trading. Like, I'll take care of this for you later, so you can get work done if you take care of this, and I can have this much of my day clear to do my writing. And another thing was dictating. I used to do like 1,000 words an hour, and then when I started dictating, it went up to 2,000. So that made a huge difference. I could just talk a lot faster than I could write because I'm a klutz. I want to do 1,000 words an hour. Okay, I don't do that right now, but when I was a full-time writer, now I do so many other things, cool. It's not that fast.
That's really cool.
I found for myself that, and I don't want it, I wish I wasn't this way, but I work really well with deadlines, and I don't work at all without deadlines. And I wish I could, and I tried actually a bunch to fix this and be like, I'm going to give myself these really long deadlines and like build up this big swath of things and ahead of time. I'm like, no, I'm going to go play Overwatch is what I'm going to go do when I do that. So yeah, I just had to admit to myself that, and the funny thing is, I would like write these books like in a week before I had to upload them to KU. And my editor would be like following behind me and editing as I'm writing and whatnot. I'm thinking, this is disaster. This would be the worst thing I've ever written. And my fans are like, those are the best books you've ever written. And I'm like, oh, maybe this is what works for me. So I had to realize like I have to figure out how to judge myself based on my own work and how my own work was received and not based on how I thought I should be doing it or anything like that. And that freed me up a lot to be more productive in that way as well.
It's all mind games, you guys. It really is. Figuring out how to get to your particular word flow. It's a mind game. And for me, you know, first of all, I had to take everything off my computer except Word to get myself to finish stuff and take everything out of my office and then set a timer across the room. And so I made myself, with a hummingbird brain, sit there for an hour and not do anything else. And I finally started writing, and that's how I actually got going. But I'm a lot more of a hard ass than Rebecca. I just figure people have to get out of my way. If I'm going to get, you know, words done, I'm getting my words done, and I'm really rude about it. And so, you know, that's how it works for me. I can't dictate. I worked in radio, and so every time I hear myself make a mistake verbally, I have to go correct it. And that's not effective at all. And I really, really wish I could dictate. I know that works for a lot of you. So no, I actually have to do words to the page. And see, that's another mind game. I probably could train myself out of that corrective thing, but that would really hurt my voiceover and radio stuff. So I'm not going to do that. You know, so you figure out your own personal mind game. Write them down, you know, try, fail. I'm still trying to be able to read a book in the morning. Once I start, you know, at breakfast, reading somebody else's work, I don't write the rest of the day. I keep thinking I should be able to overcome that. Nope, can't.
I'll talk for 40 seconds. We have 40 seconds. I was just going to chime in on that. I was kind of a pantser. I was a complete pantser starting out. And for me, you know, not everybody's going to want to change, but I found that when I started doing outlines, I just got a lot more efficient at more the editing process. Like, I can write words. I'm motivated. Like, 5,000 words, that's my goal for today. That's no problem. But I've personally found that when I started outlining, I got a lot more efficient, and that I was not scrapping whole scenes and having to rewrite whole chapters. So that was the thing that made me faster at getting books finished and out there.
And one last question, Kate.
So I loved Craig's example of a bad way to start out, writing 10 books in 10 different genres, and I thought I'd give you another example and see if you can help me out, because I thought I was super smart. I have no technological ability, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to write for an indie publisher. So I wrote for an indie publisher under a pen name. I put 8 books out this year, made 6 figures. They did really, really well. And then I was listening to the Craig show on the weekend, and they were talking about how even with big name writers, so let's say there's a Patterson with a writer who's actually writing the book, people don't follow the person writing the book. Even if they like the voice, they follow Patterson, they don't follow the writer. So I've written some very, very successful books, and no one is going to fucking follow me. So my question is, when you've made that kind of a misstep, do you restart under a different name, or do you start building your platform from that name, knowing that people already know that name from a different platform, under my publisher's platform? What's your advice for that kind of misstep?
It's not a misstep. Let me talk to it for a minute, because I wrote Star Trek and Star Wars books and Buffy and a whole bunch of the other stuff too, which is very similar to what you're talking about, where you have the James Patterson and the person who writes the book. It's not a misstep because your statistics are wrong. It's about 10% who cross over to the author, the person who actually wrote the book. Readers are smart, so you have a 10% base of whatever that is, and they will follow you. It's just smaller than you expected. So, if you're going to write, if you like the genre you were writing in, keep writing in it, and they'll follow you over there. If you don't like it, then just keep building and start as a new writer, realizing you already have a 10% base of people who like your voice.
Awesome. Good answer. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we'd like to thank our special guests, our high-powered author panel. Thank you. I think there's no better way to kick off the whole conference than having successful people talk about their success and what they've done and any barriers they've overcome to be where they are today. Some people fall out, and some people are stick with it, and it's rewarding. And you see what the reward is. All right, we'll take a short break. We have the Christmas card bucket up here that I'll take these back to North Pole, Alaska, and get them mailed from there, stamped with the North Pole stamp. Industry professionals up here at 11, please. Thank you very much.